the result of a dedicated service by John Stewart. And John wasn't done yet then either, and spent many years volunteering in a kindergarten class at McKinley Elementary, and then followed up with that as a substitute teacher in a K-5 in McKinley. In addition to his many accomplishments, the one thing I remember about John Stewart was his sterling character as an educator and as a human being. John was a strong disciplinarian and could be tough as nails at times, but he also spent hundreds of hours in nursing homes and hospitals reading to people and bringing them good cheer in their time of need. Marion City Schools, and indeed the entire community, has lost a great person, and we owe him a great deal of gratitude. So, Madam President, I thank you for allowing me for the time to recognize John Stewart this evening.
Thank you, Ted. We also have another presentation tonight. It's somewhat of a surprise. I'd like to welcome to the podium tonight, or at least to the microphone, Jeff Chambers and Holly Miller-Smith from the Ohio School Boards Association with a special presentation.
Thank you all for allowing us to be here this evening and borrow some time from your agenda today. The Ohio School Board Association was formed back in 1955. As all of you know, the purpose of our association is to provide information, services, and programs to assist you, the local school board member, do your job more effectively and to meet the needs of your community. We're guided by our mission to serve Ohio Public School Board members, the diverse districts they represent, through superior service, unwavering advocacy, and creative solutions. Overseeing the association is a board of trustees, and I'm here to recognize Leslie Snyder as a member of our board of trustees. The board has the general charge of the affairs, funds, and property of the association. The trustees carry out the purpose of the association to the Constitution and meets 3 times a year. And Leslie is also the president-elect of the OSBA Central Region. Kim Miller-Smith is our Central Region manager. And she also serves on the Legislative Platform Committee and the Capitol Conference Planning Task Force. So on behalf of the OSBA Executive Committee, I would like to thank you for your time and commitment to the association, for serving on the Board of Trustees. And we have this small to recognize your service.
Thank you very much. Oh, thank you.
And we have one more presentation that we'd like to make. We want to thank the board and the district for allowing Leslie the opportunity and time to spend with the association. We know that we take her away and use some of the time that she'd been spending in the community and with the schools and with the district. And we just want to say thank you for that and present this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, great. Okay. Thank you very much, Jeff. Good to see you in person. Okay, congratulations, Leslie, on that award, and thank you to OSBA for making the trip up here to Marion and presenting that award today. Okay. So over the past couple years, I've kind of had the opportunity to listen to the mayor, Scott Schertzer, give his State of the City address. Typically that happens about a couple weeks at Rotary before we have our State of the Schools address. And so I try to listen to what Mayor Schertzer says about the city and the state of the city. And so this year he started off and he said, he described the state of the city of Marion as in unprecedented uncertainty. And so that was the terms that he used to describe the city of Marion, or the state of the city of Marion. So I did mention to him afterwards, I said, you kind of threw me a curveball this year because I didn't want to come out, because I don't think we are in a state of uncertainty, although what we faced over the last year obviously has been unprecedented, and obviously it has created a lot of uncertainty. But so I thought about, what can I say about the state of Marion City schools at this point? And so definitely given the pandemic and the unprecedented and the uncertainty has existed, but I would say that Marion City Schools is stronger through the unprecedented times and the uncertainty. And the reason I use that term stronger is if you go back and you think about the last year and a half of what our students have had to endure, what our staff has had to endure, and our families here in Marion. And think about where we were a year and a half ago and where we're at now. We've had to do some things that not everybody was in favor of. We know our students were in some times where we were very concerned about their well-being, and some of our students being home and without their peers created some really hardships on some of our kids. And so for us to come back this year, thinking again back in August, early August, that we would be kind of somewhat back to normalcy in schools, and then having again another wave of the pandemic hit us, and having to make decisions like wearing masks and those kinds of things, which certainly aren't popular. Nobody wants to have to wear a mask every day. Nobody wants to worry about quarantining students and keeping them home. But as a result of some of the things that we've done, we've really done our best to keep our kids in school and learning. And our staff has done an outstanding job here in Marion City of making sure that our kids are protected, and all the while learning new and different techniques for learning and making sure that our kids get the education that they so need and that they so deserve. And so that is why I chose the term stronger through the unprecedented. Typically during the state of the schools, most of our administration gets up and we talk about the pillars and our strategic plan and those kinds of things. Tonight we got something a little bit different on hand. The next slide I'll just tell you about how we're going to handle tonight. So here's the agenda. Just going to give you kind of an overview of where we're at. Our treasurer, Veronica Reinhardt, is going to give us a brief financial update. We're going to talk a little bit about the strategic plan, but we do have a video prepared for you to kind of go through some of those things, and we really want to allow for some of our staff perspective. We have some staff members here. They're going to talk about what they're doing in their classrooms and how it relates to what we're doing in our strategic plan and our 4 pillars. And then we're going to have a presentation from Johnny Jackson, our Diversity and Equity Coordinator, and Bob Stone, who's an assistant principal at the high school. So that's on the agenda. I don't want to waste much more of that time so we can get to the real meat of tonight's content. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our treasurer, and she's going to talk a little bit about the financial status of the district.
So this is going to be the shortest financial presentation the board has to hear right now. As you all know, we have a new state funding model that the state is working on giving us information on what our state funding looks like for this year. I had put on here that I'm going to give you an update in November with the forecast. I just got an email today that the state still hasn't been able to complete their end of trying to figure out what our district or any district in the state's going to get. So they pushed that back till December. So it's going to be until at least December until we get all the information on our state funding this year. As I said, we're going to do the forecast in November, and we'll have a presentation on that. But the only information that I will have for that at that time is the simulations that they had done for us last spring. So I'll bring that to you, and I'll bring that to you with, whatever information I have at the time. But again, as we all know, state funding is important in our district since so much of our revenue is based on what we do get from the state. So since I can't really talk about that at length today, I did want to remind everybody that we do have a renewal levy on the ballot on November 2nd. Today is the last day to register to vote. So if anybody hasn't registered, I think you can still register online this afternoon. I do want to remind you, board, and I know that you're probably aware of this, this is no new taxes for the residents of our district. This levy in particular has been renewed every time it's been on the ballot since 1989. 1989 was the first year it was voted in, and the great citizens of the city of Marion have decided to support that ever since then. This levy brings in $2 million for us. It started out at $2 million and it's still at $2 million. This money will help pay for our day-to-day operation, and it allows for us to be able to give you a forecast next month that will show some financial stability. If it wouldn't pass, our forecast will look a little bit different in November, and we'll talk about that then. But again, I just wanted to remind you guys that that's on. And again, in the November meeting, we'll talk a lot further about our forecast and where we're at. So that's the quick financial update for the state of the schools. And I'm going to take this microphone and put it on my computer because the next part of this is a video.
Marion City Schools developed its 4 pillars to support the vision of inspiring a community of achievement. The overarching goal of the 4 pillars is to provide every opportunity for students to be successful in not only academics, but life skills as well. It is our hope that all students in our schools are healthy, safe, engaged, supported, and challenged. For academic learning, the goal is to meet the state standard on the local report card by working with the Ohio Improvement Process, as well as engaging community partners, parents, and families to enhance and extend learning opportunities for students. To accomplish this, we plan to improve OIP implementation at the teacher, building, and district level and ensure quality tiers of instruction and support are provided for all learners. We are also planning community and family engagement events led by each building and working on clear communication plans from each building for all families. For social emotional learning, the goal is to reduce the number of discipline days and increase attendance. Strategies to accomplish this are to identify and implement appropriate supports to address student behavior through a multi-tiered system of support featuring on-site counseling services and attendance advocates. We are also promoting relationships within the school and our community partners, as well as exploring ways to increase family engagement, to encourage attendance, and create a restorative community in which all students have a sense of belonging. With literacy, our goal is for the Reading Performance Index grade to meet the state standard on the local report card with the implementation of our Reading Achievement Plan. Through that plan, there are a number of new implementations. We are starting a new cohort of teachers going through letters training, monitoring implementation of a new reading curriculum at the middle school, and 2 reading curriculum pilots at our elementary schools. We are hard at work with disciplinary literacy training, continuing to improve the multi-tiered system of supports process across our district and working closely with our community partners on early literacy initiatives. Under the leadership pillar, the goal is to reduce staff turnover and improve the open enrollment ratio by 10%. To accomplish this, the district is creating a student culture of authenticity through collaborative experiences to build character and leadership, as well as creating a culture of inclusiveness among all staff. Focus 3 culture training has been administered to a number of staff members, already with some becoming Focus 3 trainers themselves. A culture playbook has been developed by a group of staff members from across the district to sustain our focus on creating a culture of excellence and belonging at Marion City Schools. With the legacy pillar, the task at hand is to meet the state standard by improving structures, instruction, and opportunities. By doing so, this will prepare students to make the important decision of enrollment, enlistment, or employment. In the 2021 graduating class, 76 students had earned 2,226 college credit hours, with 14 of those graduates already earning associate degrees from Marion Technical College. There were also 75 students that had earned more than 842 credentials, with certificates from welding, auto, retail, CPR, and nursing. For this school year, there are a host of new programs and activities that are sure to bolster the Legacy Pillars Foundation. A new industrial maintenance program is currently underway, as well as the return of the career-based intervention program. Juniors and seniors are currently being surveyed about the ACTs. Together, these 4 pillars will serve as the foundation for the future, ensuring that our students and our staff thrive through growth and empowerment, personal ownership, and collaboration as we relentlessly pursue excellence at Marion City Schools.
Part of the pillar update, you heard in part of our leadership pillar, us working on some things with a group called Focus 3. And I just want to go over a couple of these next slides to talk a little bit about Focus 3 and how we got involved with their work. About a year and a half ago, I think it was, that some of our high school staff had decided to do a book study. And the name of the book that they studied was called Above the Line. And it really chronicled the 2014 championship path that the Ohio State Buckeyes took. But it was really centered around a group that came in and worked with their team on leadership and how they empowered and what they did with their team to allow them to overcome some adversity and end up winning the national championship. And so Focus 3 does a lot of work, not just with athletic teams. They spent some time in Hilliard about 6 or 7 years ago, translating what they taught to athletic teams to school systems, and now they even actually do the same thing with business and industry. And so as a result of the conversations and walking around the high school and looking at some of the signs that are up and some of our teachers who really took ownership of the Focus 3 playbook and all of the training that was provided through the book study, we decided to engage them in some of our leadership training here in Marion City. And so last spring, we had about 25 people, whether they were teachers, family members, staff members, administration, that worked on what's called a culture playbook, which I'll get to in a second. Did we pass that one up, or did I switch them? Okay. And so there was a slide there that talked about the culture playbook in the video update. And so really the way this works is, and I'll get to E+R=O in a second here. So in an organization, you have to identify what outcomes you would like to see. And so on the very far right, the outcomes that we talked about within that group that developed the culture playbook was we wanted to relentlessly pursue excellence. We wanted to make sure we could count on each other, and that Marion City Schools would become a place of belonging. And so those are the outcomes that we looked at, and then we worked backwards. So what is our beliefs here in Marion City Schools, and what will the behaviors look like in relation to those beliefs so that we can get the outcomes that we chose? And so the first one, every person, every day. I saw Mr. Kress sitting back there, and he has a T-shirt on. All of our staff members have T-shirts with a different part of our culture playbook. And you can see on the front of his, it says all in, and that's what the group kind of made our motto for this whole process, all in. But again, our belief is every person, every day, and that has to do with growth and empowerment. And making sure that our staff and our students are growing and that they are empowered to be able to grow. So what are the behaviors that we want to see in relation to those beliefs that can present that outcome? We want you to value yourself and invest in others, embrace challenges and create solutions, and seek opportunities to discover new learning. The next one is expect the best and give your best, and that's all about personal ownership. And we want our staff and our students and our administration all to take personal ownership for all of these beliefs that we have established here in Marion City. The outcome we want to see is we can all count on each other. And so what do the behaviors look like in order for us to get to that outcome? Establish and maintain high expectations for each person. Be intentional, be above the line. Own your responses, actions, and outcomes. And finally, work together, build together. And that's all about collaboration. Listen to and value each other's voice. Cultivate trusting relationships. Create a community of connections so that Marion City Schools will become a place of belonging. I just want to talk a little bit about E+R=O. Eventually, we want to bring this concept and this formula to all of our students. And E+R=O is about an event, that's what the E stands for, plus your own personal response will give you the outcome that you seek. And so it's really about preparing your R. We have the training we've gone through here in Marion City Schools is called R-Factor training, and that's what it's all about. It's so that you have the tools necessary to prepare your response in any event, whether you know about it or you don't know about it. What your response will be will determine your outcome. And this is all part of our leadership series and character building for all of our students and our staff members here in Marion City. All right, so I want to talk to you. I'm going to turn the microphone over. Normally we just have our administration speak, but I want you to hear from our teachers. And I want you to hear what they're doing in their classrooms that supports our 4 pillars. So first up is Tracy Martin. She's on her way up here, and she's a teacher at Hayes Elementary.
Good evening, and they've already said who I am. I teach first grade at Hayes Elementary, and I've been asked to speak about the literacy pillar. So I'm going to talk about the 5 big literacy ideas, beginning with phonemic awareness. So one of the programs that we've implemented several years ago is Harity, which is a daily routine used in the pre-K through 2nd grade that helps our students become aware of sounds in our language. Students have shown gains in knowledge of how to break words apart into phonemes, syllables, and rhyme. The implementation of the phonics program, which is another part of our Big 5, was implemented last year in 2021, the school year, and it's been a great addition to the literacy program. I really enjoyed that program. It gave a lot of the why and great explanation to kids of why words are spelled the way they are and how to help them move forward. And it also connects very well with the phonemic awareness. So I try to keep those 2 together so they just kind of build on one another. And so the training that was mentioned in the video, the letters training, we have at Hayes, 76% of our staff has had the training in letters, which has helped us build on our knowledge of how the brain learns to read, which is really important because it's not an automatic thing. We have to train our brain to do those things. And so the phonemic awareness, then the phonics, and then also joins in with our handwriting without tears that we started in kindergarten 2 years ago, I think. And it's piloted in kindergarten, and then it went into 1st grade, and now it's in 2nd grade, and I'm not sure if I think 3rd grade as well. And that is also helping as we're learning our sounds. Then in the phonics program, and we're beginning to build words, that muscle memory, to take away that work that our brain needs so we can use on comprehending and figuring out what we're reading. And that a lot of that came through with our letters training, the importance of handwriting and learning the correct formation to help with that muscle memory. So we can free up the brain space to concentrate on the reading process. As I said, that it's not a natural process for our brain. And so over the last school year, the Literacy Committee looked at 6 different language arts programs, and 2 were chosen to pilot for this current 21-22 school year. 1 grade from each school in the elementaries, K-5, would pilot each of the programs. So in our building, there are 2 programs that we chose, Wonders and CKLA. And in our building at Hayes, my classroom is, we're piloting the Wonders program, and our 5th grade is piloting the CKLA program. My program is a basal-based, where the CKLA is a knowledge-based, and we want to make sure that whatever program we're going to use to support our students, it best supports our students. So we're doing some piloting this year and looking to see which is going to give us what we need to support our students. One of the things that I've noticed through Wonders is that the program is working on multiple language arts standards at a time. throughout each unit, along with connecting it to ESL standards and science and social studies standards. I'm then able to pull in work from integrated units that my team did last year to support the Wonders as well. They joined well together. And the Wonders program is very comprehensive. It supports phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, comprehension, and fluency, which those are our big five. And they connect to integrated topics for science and social studies. The last thing I want to touch base on is our standards-based grading. So I've been a part of that process since the beginning. I've been on the committee for first grade, and it's really helped to really see what exactly our students need to help move them forward to the next process. Standard to see the whole picture and really explain to the students to help them understand the standard and why they're learning what they're learning. And so the more that we understand about everything that we're doing, the more we're going to be able to help our students. So thank you for allowing me the time to share my thoughts on the literacy pillar. Does anyone have any questions? All right.
Thank you so much, Tracy. And Tracy's a great example of the work that our staff has put in relation to making sure that we have the right literacy program here in Marion City Schools and that it meets the needs of our students, particularly here in Marion. And her work that she's done, she's very modest in her talking about the work that she's done, and many of our staff members have done, not only in literacy, but as standards-based grading. It's been about a year and a half, I think, process that we started, and hopefully we're ready to implement that standards-based grading here in Marion City Schools very shortly. All right, let me get the next person up here. This is Rose Cunningham, who is our exercise science career tech teacher, but she's also our head volleyball coach, which they think probably are going to, I don't know what you call that, tip off or spike or hit pretty soon. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Rose.
The nets went down, so we're fine.
Okay.
We're fine. I don't know if it goes this low. Hopefully, can everybody hear me okay? Like Dr. Irusi said, my name is Rose Cunningham. I teach exercise science here at Harding High School. I am also one of our non-core department leads, and I am one of the R-Factor trainers. We went through that this spring, so you were talking about that earlier. Fantastic. I'm excited to bring that to our staff more so, and then also to our students when we get to that point. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about how the legacy pillar is really impacting not only my classroom, but in my department as a whole. I am on the legacy pillar committee, I guess you could say, and we have another meeting, I think, on Wednesday, so I'm excited to see where we're going with that. So just a couple of things about the pillar. When we think of legacy, for me, I'm not from Harding. I've been here 15 years. But for me, it's all about that legacy that you can leave. I feel like I'm a Harding grad, even though I'm not one, but I count myself among them now. And what our students not only can do once they leave here, but if they come back. One of my department members this year is Olivia Davis, who is a Harding grad herself a couple years ago and is now teaching one of our career tech classes. So the more that we can have those students come back and enjoy their experience here and then come back to us, I think, not only just to the schools, but to the community in general, I think will be fantastic. So when we think about legacy, for us here at Harding, it's all about that diploma plus, what they can do after they graduate high school. So whether that's enrollment in a 2-4-year college or university, into a trade school, if they're enlisting into the military, or if they're going straight into the workforce, which is all three are great options. We just want to make sure that they are prepped and ready to go for when, you know, that day in May comes and they walk across that stage and then the next day of their life begins that next Monday. We give them the weekend, but that Monday morning after graduation when they start their lives. So for us here at Harding, we've been really working on our CTE enrollment, so our career tech education classes. We have 9 programs now within Harding and at Marion Ellen Withrow. So those include exercise science, health tech, integrated production technologies, business and marketing, global logistics, engineering, welding, construction, and our new one this year is industrial maintenance. So those are just some of the programs our students can do while they're here at Harding. And you saw in the video about the 12-point credentials that some of our students earned last year. Those are going to look great on their resumes, walking into an employer. It gives them that step up. It gives them something to say, hey, I graduated high school, but I also have this. Our guidance counselors and our fantastic Gear Up officers here at Harding are not only meeting with our graduating class, or all of our classes here at Harding, but also in the middle school to not only make those graduation plans and update those regularly throughout the year now, but also going to the middle school and finding out, hey, what are you interested in, besides whatever you're interested in as a middle schooler? And they're sharing information with them about the classes and programs outside of the typical core classes that we have here at Harding to those middle schoolers, and along with our career exploration classes that we have at the level. So they do a fantastic job. As the career tech department itself, we try to make contact with our area employers, colleges and universities, what classes these kids might have to take at the next level, and try to gear our program so that when they leave us, they're walking right into the workforce. So we have our advisory council meetings. This year we're going to meet quarterly with those members, and each department, each program has their own advisory committee with, again, employers that are working in Marion that are telling us, 4 times a year, what are they looking for out of those staff members. So it's fantastic to be able to get out in the community and meet those people as well. I feel like I forgot something, but that sounds about right for me. So any questions that you have about any of our career tech programs, the legacy pillar in general, or any questions on even the Focus 3? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rose. Rose is you could hear the passion in her voice when she talks about career tech and the legacy pillar and all those things that we're doing for our children to make sure that they have the tools necessary when they leave us. And so thank you for that. And I just want to mention there's 2 folks here that are in the audience. I see Matt Carberry back there. Matt is the director or the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce here in Marion. And Martin Hughes is our CEO of Fahey Bank. Matt is on the MAWAC group, and that's our business advisory group that helps us determine what pathways we should have here in Marion, because that represents what the need is in the community. And so Matt's a very active member of that and helps us bring all of those folks together. I mentioned Martin here tonight. Fahey Bank has announced this year that they are actually going to allow some of our senior students to do internships at Fahey Bank. So this is kind of the first of its kind here in Marion, so we're really looking forward, and hopefully that's a model for other business and industry here in Marion, that they will allow our students to have that opportunity to do internships, eventually get to the pre-apprenticeship phase, and maybe even some apprenticeships. So appreciate those folks that are here tonight and what they do for not only our students, but our strategic plan and the legacy pillar. Finally, I'm going to ask Nikki Panamarzik, who is also a science teacher here at Harding High School, to come up and talk a little bit.
Hello, my name is Nikki Panamarzik. I teach pre-AP bio and anatomy and physio at Harding High School. And I was asked to speak about the leadership pillar and how it affects me in my classroom. So I'm not only a proud graduate of Harding High School, but I've also taught at Harding for 10 years. I wanted to join the leadership committee because Marion City Schools holds a special place in my heart, and I want both staff and students to feel the same way that I do. In our first leadership meeting of the school year, we discussed the importance of allowing staff and students to pursue something they're passionate about so that they can develop a sense of belonging and develop a connection with Harding High School. During my time at Harding, I've helped coach soccer at both Harding and Grant, been the homecoming coordinator and senior breakfast coordinator, ran the Eco Club, and most recently helped develop a new club called Venus. These activities have been important to me because they have helped me develop connections with students that I do not have in class. Furthermore, they help me pursue my own interests. For example, the Harding Eco Club has attended the Teen Eco Summit at the Columbus Zoo for the past 3 years. At this summit, students are given the opportunity to develop plans to help combat climate change, and they must present these plans to zoo representatives. Helping students understand understand the effects of climate change, and develop the skills to create a plan and presentation to help prevent it is a passion of mine. I am thankful to have been a part of that experience. Also, being homecoming coordinator has helped me share moments with high school students that they will remember for a lifetime. I will always remember a video we used to show freshmen on Freshman Transition Day that was created by alumni students. In the video, the students were asked to speak about their favorite high school memory, and a majority spoke about homecoming or being a part of the homecoming assembly. To me, this speaks volumes about the importance of these events in students' lives, and this is why helping with these events is important to me. Through the Leadership Pillar Committee, I would love to give these experiences to other staff members and students. The more memorable moments we can create, the more connections we develop between our community and Marion City Schools. Is there any questions for me about leadership? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. And once again, you can hear the passion in Nikki's voice for not only the subjects she teaches, but more importantly for the students she works with, and giving them, again, every opportunity to have the greatest high school experience they possibly can. So, again, that was just a small sample of what our teachers do to support our pillars, but more importantly to support our kids. And so thanks to Tracy and Nikki and Rose for coming and doing that for us tonight. Okay, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Johnny Jackson, who is our Diversity Equity Coordinator, and Bob Stone, who's the Assistant Principal here at the high school.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Johnny Jackson. I am the Equity and Diversity Supervisor for Marion City Schools.
Good evening. My name is Bob Stone. I'm an assistant principal here at Harding High School. For those of you that I'm just getting a chance to meet for the first time this evening, I do like to share as often as I can that I'm a proud 2008 graduate of Harding High School and this very building. So just very excited to have an opportunity this evening to talk about some of the work that we've undertaken in the last year, and just kind of share some of the journey that we've been on, and some of the journey that lies ahead. So thank you. So just as we get started today, kind of a rhetorical question here. So assuming that these two individuals have the exact same skill sets, apart from the difference in their demeanor in this photo, if you are looking to employ a lifeguard at your local pool or the aquatic center here in Marion, which of these two candidates do you think would perhaps be better suited to that role? I'm going to guess that most of us right now are thinking that it's probably the person who's listening intently and paying attention. And I would think that would probably be a good decision, considering the importance of that job and what we depend upon someone in that role to do. And I wanted to take a moment and think about the lifeguard example as a little bit of a metaphor for what we do in the world of education. All of us in here engaged this evening in this work, I think, can play this role of a lifeguard for the young people in our schools each day. And so that's why I think it's important to think about that as we go through the work on any given day and we are working on making decisions and trying to make good decisions, that we make sure that we are listening intently to what we're hearing, what we are seeing. Because as we realize today, as we're getting started, Mr. McKenna is sharing some very deep and sincere thoughts regarding the impact of one of our educators that worked in this community, Mr. John Stewart. The work that we do here each and every day has a tremendous impact and a tremendous footprint. And so as we make decisions, these are not things we make lightly. So we really want to make sure that we are not the person on the right here, kind of falling asleep slumped there over the keyboard, but we want to make sure that we are that person that's listening intently and paying attention. And so I just want for us to think about kind of that thought process as we kind of walk through some of what we've done here this year.
Thanks, Bob, for the metaphor. So part of our big picture considerations is we really wanted to think about our students' rights. We really want to consider, how do we support and nurture them? And this is a national trend that we're looking at. How do we support that type of student voice and also agency in school?
And as evidence of some of that happening on the national stage, there have been a number of things like, court cases regarding students' rights to expression, freedom of speech, the First Amendment. There are a number of examples of those sorts of things out there, and it's, as we see with young people, they oftentimes like to find ways to express themselves. So as we consider that and, some of the implications in terms of, items like Title IX and some of the requirements that we have in order to ensure that we are providing opportunities for all of our students, we started to think through some of what we were seeing in our school and in our community each day as we think about how we impact some of our students.
Sure. So that also brought us to a conversation that we had with students and also with staff about Title IX and the implications of equal and equitable access. So students and staff shared certain concerns, which we felt that we needed to get data to actually address those particular concerns.
And in particular, some of these conversations surrounded our dress code and in practice, here in Marion City Schools, here at Harding High School. As we've seen here in the last few years, there's been, a lot of, I think, reflection upon the school and what kind of role does it play in the lives of our students and our families. And, that idea that students, being in school and being around their peers and, to be in a safe and welcoming environment and learning is something that has recently been on the forefront of the minds of educators, families, community members. This is something that I think that, many folks from sitting, in different areas, in regards to the table, have had some thoughts about. I've had conversations with students, with family members, with staff, and many of them might hold very different perspectives in terms of, what are the impacts of some of these practices, such as things like dress code. So many of those conversations help kind of set the stage for what we're going to be taking a look at here as we kind of work through this process.
So the thing that we really guided by is looking at well-being or looking at the social emotional learning of our kids and how social emotional learning actually connects to academic achievement. We started really thinking and digging into data and looking at students, staff, families, and how that helped us drive our more equitable decision making. On the right side here, there's a small graph that it says PAR or participatory action and research. As Nikki was talking earlier, it really popped into my mind that the way that we ground a lot of our educational spaces when it comes to equity is when we lead our young people around a project that connects their academic lives and their community lives. And when we ask questions like, what do you want to do in the future? That's an important question. But when we ask questions around what type of community issues and international issues you want to solve, then that becomes a larger question and it leads to more conversations around democracy. The next point is we also were thinking about how the well-being in our schools is connected to our academic achievement. So we wanted to increase both social emotional learning and academic achievement for our students. So we're looking at how do we unearth certain inequitable practices and actually shift that to more equitable practices. And we were looking at data, how we close gaps, particularly around academics for some of our subgroups, those subgroups being students of color, students with disabilities, students that might live in poverty, and also our LGBTQ students. So let me pass it to Bob.
And then one of the things that we found, and particularly in connection to things like well-being, that has been a consistent concern as you talk to different stakeholders in the community, educators, what that well-being piece as we've worked through the COVID-19 pandemic, student support structures, where are students at in regards to some of those social and emotional needs. And one of the things that we have observed working in the schools would be the increased interest on behalf of students, families, educators, in some of those additional supports and SEL supports, things like mental health supports, counseling, mentoring, programs along those lines to help support students as they navigate some of the challenges that we found here in the last few years. And so that piece of increasing student feelings of belonging and well-being is one that has been at the forefront of our minds as we've thought about many of the issues that we're facing. And so what you see here on the right-hand side, our graph, this is a model of the Ohio improvement process. To sum it up in a few words, it's somewhat of a science fair approach, where you take data, you put it on the trifold board, and you're prepared to talk about it. What did you learn? What did you see? And that is very much what we look to do as a district, as educators, that we look to have our staff participate in. And that was essentially our process here. Looking at concerns within the data, attempting an intervention, putting it in place, and then continuing to monitor what change you see, and then to reflect upon what results. And so you can see we identify, research, plan, implement, and monitor, then you're reflecting and adjusting. And so this is a continual process. Did that intervention, did it work? Do we need to adjust? Do we have other problems? This is a continuous process. If you think back to the culture playbook piece we've talked about, that continuous growth, that continuous improvement piece, where we can get just a little bit better each and every day. This very much parallels those values that we've talked about as a staff within the school district, that idea of getting a little bit better each day. And so through this process, we're looking at what trends are we seeing in the classroom, in the hallways, and what can we do to intervene and to make an impact and make a difference with our students. And so specifically, one of those concerns we noted within the data last year, I pulled this piece from part of that conversation we had with our staff. Part of what we saw last year, as we look at referrals in EduClimber for dress code related issues, students of color comprise 54.6% of those dress code entries, despite comprising 26.4% of our student population. So as we see this and we began to discuss it, those are numbers that are concerning. And so we have to think about what's happening there. How can we make a difference? How can we make an impact? And so we embarked upon a journey throughout the school year, talking with staff, talking with students, and I give a lot of credit to those that were involved in those discussions. They aren't always, that the conversations where everybody leaves in complete agreement, but they did a good job of, sharing their perspectives. We are continuing to have conversations and reflect upon, some of these items as we move forward, but this was some of the data that we saw that prompted some of those conversations.
So we're going to talk about some next steps or some ways forward. We're looking at putting equity champions in each one of our school buildings, and those equity champions are looking at those academic gaps. So what are the gaps between majority students and minority students that we need to close, analyze, and think about? As Bob was talking about, using that type of OIP or continuous improvement model. Also looking at social emotional gaps, like socially, emotionally, how are students doing, and what type of community resources can we put in place, mentoring can we put in place, and also community kind of like processes or people can we also bring into the gap. The last piece is social cultural gaps. What type of cultural resources do we need, considering the African American community, the Latino community? How can we bring those communities more and build those bridges out into those communities and also build bridges into the schools? And then those building equity teams. One of the most impressive building equity teams that I see is our Garfield team. Monthly, they have a really beautiful letter that goes out or where they're really highlighting the different things that they're doing as a teaching staff in their particular community. October is Disability Awareness Month, and so if any parents are on that particular letter, what you'll see is you'll see at least 12 different books from YouTube where you'll be able to listen to different stories of people in the different disabled communities kind of talk a little bit about their experiences and actually have like an asset way to look at different communities like that. So we really want to bring that into the fold. We also want to look at data. As Bob was talking, we really think about both numbers and stories, the qualitative and quantitative data, and we really want to drive home how we can keep producing equity. And these next two pieces, community voice, we really want to make sure that we do a lot of community-based work to actually build back those community anchors during our pandemic. I think the pandemic made us press pause a lot on some of those community relationships like mentoring, also different community elders that might be coming into the building. So it's super exciting to hear that Fayette Bank is actually going to have a apprentice program. Hopefully we can keep that and continue like a co-op type of program. The last piece, in which I'm really passionate about, is youth voice. Over the summer, we had a really great opportunity to work with 10 youth of color from Harding High School, and we were able to pay them a stipend to do some research with us around social and racial justice. And that was really exciting because we were able to not only pay them, but also work on a project around solving different injustices and frame a conversation that both got them paid, gave them some employability skills around researchers, and also connect them to maybe a future career that they might be on the path of. So we're just super excited about taking these next steps, and hopefully we can keep using data to drive our equitable actions in Marion City Schools. Thank you.
Just a closing thought. So something that we just want to take a moment and to recognize. Recent months and years, we know that these have been challenging for staff, students, families, community members, and we just want to take a moment and to appreciate and recognize the resilience, patience, hard work that have been exhibited by parents, students, all of our stakeholders. I think that is very important to take a moment to recognize, and just to kind of wrap up and think about with what we've heard this evening, students earning credentials, students earning, college hours, semester hours, those sorts of things. I think that we have a lot to be proud of in terms of our young people and the things they're doing as far as doing the right things and, things that are worthy of recognition and to be proud of. And at the end of the day, that's what we're all here for. So thank you very much.
And once again, you can hear the passion in their voices because they're truly dedicated not only to the work that they're doing within just diversity, equity, and inclusion, but the impact that it's having on our students. And Bob said this, he's really proud of being able to do that work and all of the resiliency. I got to tell you, I'm proud to be here as well in thinking about what you just heard tonight and some of the things that have gone on within each of our pillars. And think about that. Pilot literacy programs going on, adding new pathways to high school, adding new programs in science and STEM and those kinds of things. And again, all in the midst of a pandemic. And so we've done that work, and the staff deserves all the credit for that, for their resiliency during that time period to continue to increase the offerings that we have here in Marion and make it the best choice for a good education here in Marion and the surrounding area. So I want to say thank you to all of those that presented tonight. Really appreciate that. At this point, if we have any questions, I'd be more than happy to try to answer any of those from any of our folks here that are in attendance tonight. Typically, we live stream this. We had some technical difficulties today. We were not able to live stream, but we are videotaping this, and this will be up on our website as well. All right. Well, with that then concludes the State of the Schools for this year so far. So thank you for coming and attending tonight. Again, I'll be here. If you have any questions, feel free to come up and ask whatever you'd like. Thank you. meeting.